That $16 million piece of land that I bought just appraised last week for $60 million. Success is about knowing what opportunities to take.
Meet Terry Patterson, a self-made multi-millionaire.
From managing restaurants at 17 to building multi-million-dollar homes and transforming a yacht club into a thriving development.
Terry's relentless drive and bold decisions have redefined success.
Don't be afraid to fail. Just failure is where you learn the most. I had at that point 2 houses on the water and a $2 million yacht. My advice to people is move forward. Don't go back. You're going side to side, but make sure it's forward.
Even in the worst time, how did you still keep up and still keep on going where everything is collapsing?
Okay. Now you're getting into personal stories.
What's going on, friends? Thank you so much for tuning in for another great episode of Tom Talk Success, where we bring you a lot of interesting people that want to take themselves for the next level. And in today's episode, I have a pleasure to introduce Terry Patterson, who is also a builder, owner of construction company, as well to all of that, he owner of the Lighthouse Point Yacht Club. This man literally came from South Africa and created an empire in the States. And I have the true pleasure to introduce him. Terry, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. How are you doing today?
Great, Tom. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, Terry, I guess let's just jump right into your story. So you came from South Africa, and without any degrees, correct?
Just mechanical engineering from Cape Town College.
Got it. And then you started your way in from the restaurant space, correct?
Yes. Well, to pay for college, I had to work my way through restaurants and pay for my life.
Wow.
And the restaurant, it went pretty well for me from a very young age. I was a manager by 17 and got into I was working for a big franchise, and the head office got hold of me and said they want to put me in one of their training programs. And then I feel I excelled in those training programs, so they then put me into there were 400 stores throughout the country, but they were all franchises. They had a few that were owned by the head office that were their training stores. So they asked me to go and be the senior manager and trainer in one of their training stores when I was 19. And I learned so much from that, because when you're not just managing or working in a business, but you're actually responsible for the training people on how to run a business like that, you learn more training. So I feel I grew very fast because I was doing all these courses on how to train people, and then how to train people to train people, train the trainer courses. So I think I've adopted what I learned then, not just because it was my formative years, being not even 20 yet, but what I learned was training. You need to always be teaching people, whatever your business is. So I took what I learned in the restaurant business, in the big corporate restaurant business, and I've put that into construction and all my businesses, where I feel that my job, and what I tell all my managers and directors of departments, their job is to just constantly be teaching everybody else.
Wow.
Train.
So I want to ask you, so you have done a lot of success in your life, and obviously you have a big career in the construction and developments. But I want to ask you, before we kind of go into those details, why is it about you? Like, what is it about you that always you wanted to succeed big? Is that like something that came from the family, or is something that you said, I'm going to be a successful story one day? Like, what is it about you that success is makes the success super important in your life?
I think where it started. I was, growing up, my father was he was operations director for Cummins Diesel Engine Company, big company, 11 branches through Southern Africa, 1,100 employees, and everyone always came to me as a kid and would tell me how amazing he is and how wonderful he is at his job, and he's just the best person. So I grew up thinking, hey, I need to prove to my father that I can be like him. Sorry, Dad, if you're watching this, but I wanted to be better than my father.
Wow.
That was my drive. And I saw him, as a teenager and as a kid, I held him on such a high pedestal that I just wanted to work harder, be better. Actually, I see that in my own son right now. I see he's trying to do the same thing, and I hope he succeeds. I really want him to succeed with that. That was my initial drive, and then once you get to a point where you've reached those kind of successes, well, then it's already instilled in you from a young age. So you just continue going. You don't stop.
I love it. So see, I always say, and we spoke a little bit about the podcast, that when you get to those stuff, sometimes you see really successful people, but you're getting deep, you see like there's actually interesting, cool stuff behind their success, and that could be for so many reasons. Just like you mentioned that your father was a successful person and you wanted to be just like him. And I'm just shocked because I have so many people in the podcast and everybody have their own reason, but that's why I call it Tom Talk Success, because there is so many different success stories, and it's just interesting to me how everyone is different. There's not like one specific story to everybody. And so you started in the restaurant business and then scaled it into real estate developments. What made you go to that route?
Well, actually, in the restaurant business, so I was studying mechanical engineering, which I guess would be equivalent to industrial engineering. My goal when I was a kid would be go work for. We had a nuclear power station near us in Cape Town, South Africa, where I grew up, and I thought that was where I would end up, running something like that. While my success in the restaurants pushed me more towards the restaurants as I was 19, 20 years old. By the time I was 20, it's crazy. Things happen in your life that you just need to know when to take certain opportunities. Like if I think back, there wasn't a set path that I just followed. Things happen, and you need to know what opportunities to take and what opportunities not to. The thing that happened to me was I was running this training store for a big franchise, but it was far away from where I lived. My car got stolen, and then I had to hitchhike to go to work, and then also to go to school and work. It just became a huge problem for me. So I went and found a job with no longer in the franchise, but with a restaurant on the beach. It's quite famous in South Africa, in Cape Town, South Africa, actually, called Doodles. And I asked the woman, listen, will you give me a job? Because I lived on the beach right next door to her place. And she did. I'm a little kid, 20 years old. Why would she give me a job? But she needed a manager, not a general manager. I then feel like I started working really hard, putting in all the effort, and running circles around her management that were much older than me. And that person eventually resigned, and the woman was stuck with, well, what do I do now? I've got this manager who, can he run my restaurant? At 20 years old, people don't necessarily just trust that you can. They don't. They think you can't, to be honest. And she said, you know what? I'll give you 10% profit share of my restaurant if you can be general manager. If you make a success of it, good for you. Within 6 months, I was making her more money than she had ever made before, with therefore making myself a ton of money as a 20-year-old. Now, what was I going to do with that money? A friend of mine he came out of school. A guy I was in high school with, he was a realtor, and he said, Terry, I'm selling these properties, these pieces of land here in Cape Town, just near the beach. And I'm like, well, I got the money, let me buy this land from you. Which then meant, okay, now I got this land, what do? I found an architect, found a builder, and just started building these houses. And I built a house, sold a house, built another house, big house with a cottage on it, because I couldn't afford the size house that I was building. Even though I had money, it wasn't that kind of money that I could afford to live in this big house that I was building. So I built a cottage, built the house, rented out the house, lived in the cottage.
Wow.
And then, so that was my first taste of new construction, building. Not my first taste. Growing up with my father, we were always moving around the country. So he would always buy the cheapest house in the best neighborhood, make sure we went to the best schools. That's something my father always did, made sure that we were in the best schools in the country. That is what really made us, my brothers and I, who who we are. But those houses, we would then be free labor for my father and be renovating these houses for them while we were teenagers, helping him renovate the houses. So that the next time we had to move because of his job, he could sell them for a huge profit. So, you know, you're a teenager, you're not learning how to really do it properly. Everything I did, I probably screwed it up and annoyed my father more than anything, but you kind of get that bug in you. So when I had the opportunity to do it for myself when I was 20, I jumped right on it. By 21, I had sold one house and had another big, beautiful house. And then 23, and then actually the next year, when I was 22, the economy in South Africa started to really take a nosedive. The interest rate that I had on the house was at around 10%, which was actually great in South Africa at that time, and it went up to 21%. Wow. So then you're stuck dealing with an economy that's going the wrong direction in 1998. And you struggle through it, you do what you're doing, but I didn't build another house yet. I was waiting to just deal with the one that I had. I was then trying to buy I made an offer on a restaurant on the beach to buy that was accepted. And then I resigned from my job and I said, well, I'm going to take 3 months and come to the United States. At that time with my girlfriend who lived in the United States. And I was going to come here and pack up all of her things and go back to South Africa and continue with this life that I'd built for myself. But when I got here, I realized, well, hey, I think at that point it was a 7 or 8% interest rate, which seems still high like it is today, but that was great back then. But compared to my 21% in South Africa, saw that I just kind of got to know what the Fort Lauderdale area, Broward County, South Florida real estate market was doing and loved it, and called up a friend and said, listen, I'm not coming back. Can you cancel my offer, get my offer canceled on the restaurant I'm buying? I gave him my car. I said, you can have my car. Sell my house, which I lost money on, had to pay in to because at that point...
That was the same house you built, right?
One of the houses I built, because the interest rates were so high, it wasn't a good time to sell. But I came to America in 99, realized, well, here's opportunity. Let me take it. And I'm going back to what I said. Success is about knowing what opportunities to take. You hear everybody talk about it. It's a combination of hard work, luck, and knowing what opportunities to take. Like Kenny Rogers says in The Gambler, you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, and know when to run. And
I've heard that before too.
That is everything. That is everything. Because people say that your success can come through luck, but the luck, opportunities are presented to everybody. But most people are scared to pull the trigger on something. So they don't. They keep in their lane, in their comfortable, whatever they're busy doing. Don't. Try it. Take the opportunity.
Wow. So I want to ask you, you were 18 when you started in the restaurant space?
No, 15.
15. So 15 years old, that by itself is pretty insane, right? For a regular 15 years old, probably just in school. I mean,
I was 11 when I was working in flea markets selling T-shirts for my brother.
Wow, so even 11, guys, this is crazy.
Pay for my skateboard. I had a skateboard habit that my father wouldn't pay for, so I would go through shoes and skateboards like crazy, and somebody had to pay for it, and it had to be me.
So 11-year-old, we're starting the kind of the journey. And by 20 years old, you're already building houses. I want to ask you, so you were talking about looking for an opportunity. How would you explain that you were able to jump to this opportunity, not being afraid, not being scared, where meanwhile, I know personally people in their 40s, 50s, who are, even to these days, will be probably in the same position, but will be scared to take that opportunity and to be like, wait, there's no way I can just build my house. I don't know anything about it. How you were able to do it without being scared? Or you were scared and just said, you know what, I'm going to try it out?
How was I? I don't know. I just did it. You just don't, I'm not saying don't think. Just don't be afraid and just do it. Understand that not everything is a success. It's definitely not. And by the time you're talking to people on these podcasts and they got all these successes, people think that there's this straight line and they became these multi-millionaires, centimillionaires, billionaires. No, it's not. They're going to tell you stories of massive failure, and don't be afraid to fail. Just failure is where you learn the most. Now, that's not just a cliche. That is the truth. I've failed a lot during all these things. And as long as you look at those failures as learning, even the 2008 recession, we all failed. But you know how much I learned? I grew more during the 2007, 8, 9, 10 period than I grew in my whole life, because it was such a difficult time, so much failure, knowing how to work with banks, how to deal with massive debt and the economy tanking, and taking a business that was booming to all of a sudden now that's down to nothing. Look at all your failures as opportunity to grow and just continue going. Business goes like this. It's not a straight line.
So they say that, in order to be, just like you mentioned, in order to be a successful, you have to go through a lot. My question to you is, even in the worst time, how did you still keep up and still keep on going when everything is collapsing?
Compartmentalize. So when I was okay, now you're getting into personal stories. I'll go there. When I was young, when I was in my 20s and came here when I was 23, and I was just go. Got into construction over here. I had some other good opportunities that was presented to me that I took. And honestly, if I tell you what they were, most people would have said no to that. And I said yes. And my first real job when I came to the United States, and ended up really catapulting my business when I was 23, 24. By 25, I started my construction company that I have today. And I'd already, by 24, bought a house here in the United States on the water. Convinced a guy to owner finance me for the house. I don't know how, but I did. I saw he had a rental sign out there for a long time, couldn't sell it, and I went, you know what? I'll take that off your hands. And he said yes. So if you don't ask, you're not going to get that opportunity. But I grew my business as a 20-year-old. You've got a lot of energy and drive, and you can just go. And I did that nonstop. Once you, and we were in a period where there wasn't much failure in 2001, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The United States, things were booming. And I seized that opportunity. And by the time I was 29, I had, my construction company was booming. I had a development company with another partner, and we were building, I had 15 properties at that point. I had $23 million in construction loans at 28, 29 years old. Wow. I had, at that point, 2 houses on the water and a $2 million yacht. Now,
just for you?
Just for me. The houses on the water were because I needed one to live in that I bought in 2001. I was busy I decided to demolish it and rebuild a beautiful house. And I needed another one also on the water to be able to put my big 68-foot Sunseeker Predator that a 29-year-old is driving around in, which is insane for 29 years old.
Wow.
But I was pushing myself. I was pushing the limit. But then you get into 2006 was still good, but 2005 I had the 2 houses and the yacht. By 2007, the tap switched off for developers. All the stuff that I was being able to sell, all the 15 sales contracts that I had, people in 2007 started seeing interest rates going up, the stock market going down. Everything just came to a halt. January 2007. That's what caused the 2008 crash, was the real estate from the whole year and a half prior to that just tanking, and everybody putting on a brave face trying to act like nothing was wrong. We're all good, because no one comes out in mid to late 2007 saying, my business sucks, I can't sell anything, I'm really struggling, I can't pay my mortgages. No one was saying that, but that's what was actually happening. So then you start seeing the cracks come in the economy, and then you get to September 2008 when the stock market tanked. And to be honest, that was actually a godsend for for us developers, because when the stock market crashed, then the banks started negotiating with all of us. Now, as long as you were able to hold out until then, when the banks would actually talk to you, you could then negotiate selling your properties or getting somebody in to buy your properties with you from the banks at 30, 35 cents on the dollar.
Wow.
But it took it took a year and a half of us developers having to deal with, hang in there until something cracked, which allowed the banks to talk to us.
So you're saying that I guess my question is, you saw something good in 2008 happening to people in that space of developments, construction,
No. I saw something good in 2001, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and took advantage of it as much as I could.
Got it.
As much as I could. And then when things crashed in 2007, at that point I was 31 years old, and then the stock market crashed by 2008, you can't look at it and go, oh my God, everything's crashing, I give up. Here we go, bank, take all my properties. I had out of 15 sale contracts, 11 of the people walked away and said, please just keep my 10% deposit, don't come after me to close on the property, because they knew that the property had lost 50% of its value at that point, and they didn't want it. Nobody even asked for their deposit back when the banks were accepting 10%, allowing us to accept 10% deposits to do development. And then the 4 people who did end up closing on the properties that I had at that time negotiated cents on the dollar for me to buy the loan from the banks, and got their properties for next to nothing. What I did was say, okay, I'm not going to run away from this. At that point, I was very lucky. I have a construction company as well, which I work for homeowners. So when the development died, the construction and renovations boomed. So 2007 and 2008, my construction company, which was separate from my development company, doubled in revenue each year with people doing renovations. So I pivoted from new construction to mostly then renovations. I was already doing renovations, but then I was going all renovations. People still had the money, but they didn't want to buy real estate, but they wanted to spend the money on their own houses and renovate them. So that helped me take all those profits, spend them on my development to just keep the banks happy. I communicated with the banks every single day. I made sure I knew the 3 names of the people in charge of my accounts, and I would call them every morning and give them something that they can tell their bosses. Because that's all they need. They're just people, the banks. People who've got bosses to answer to. But tell them what I'm doing and what I'm doing to help them. And it's better to keep supporting me than try to take my properties from me. And I answer every single phone call, and I was spending money to finish the properties and then sell them for pennies on the dollar. They saw that. So
very interesting.
If you do the right thing, no banks it didn't affect my credit at all. By the time we came out of the recession, I was able to continue my business without skipping a beat. Whereas most other people's businesses had gone bankrupt, folded, filed for bankruptcies. They had to start from scratch. I still had my staff. I still had my core staff. I still had my credit, my banking relationships. And so by 2012, I was able to jump right back into development. 2013, start a big development in Lauderdale by the Sea, $65 million development. 29
and you guys
units.
just surpassed, you said, $250 million, correct?
Well, no, now that was 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17, built a big development, big townhouse development, on top of all the houses that I was building in my construction company. So I got a construction company. So
I just want to make sure the audience is getting to understand who you really are. You know?
I'll get there, because I'm going through the growth.
Got it.
So to be able to grow as a developer, you don't make money for a long time. When you make money, you make big money, but you need to be able to support yourself to get to
all these years,
to get through all those years. And it's not ideal to support yourself through just making your loans bigger from the bank, from your development, and taking money from the development. The best is to have something else that can support you. And that has always been my construction company, where I work for homeowners, building brand new, big, fancy houses for people that they buy the land, I help them with architect, interior design, I'm the builder, I'm the shell contractor, the drywall framing contractor, the civil contractor, and the general contractor. We manage it, we permit it, and we get paid every month. So we build about 8 to 10 houses at a time, big 12 to $40 million homes. But that's a monthly income. That's an income that you can live on, while you can have developments that take 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, sometimes 10, 12 years before that makes you money. So that's been my business model. In the process, in 2016 made an offer on Lighthouse Point Yacht Club. No, 2014 made an offer on Lighthouse Point Yacht Club. 10-acre property, 78-slip, big yacht marina, 50 to 130-foot yachts, just off the intercoastal in south of Boca, north of Fort Lauderdale by Hillsborough Inlet.
Great location.
Phenomenal location, and 10 acres of waterfront property. Thought, well, this is a steal. I could get this for cheap. Made an offer for $14 million with a partner. The offer was declined. Somebody else got it, and I thought, okay, I lost it. Somebody else got this property. But what actually happened was they got it and went into due diligence, and then the people pulled out, and then they got another buyer. They went into due diligence, and they couldn't get the loan, and they pulled out. And then eventually in 2016, I heard it came available again, and I offered $16 million, which as well was cheap. Like, I'm thinking, how is this property so cheap? I went and did my due diligence, and went to the city, checked to see if they would be open to doing a zoning change, because 16 million would be great for this 10-acre property if it's just the yacht club, that needed to be demolished and $50 million spent on it to rebuild it. That would have been a decent price, but if you could do a zoning change, it was a steal. Well, the city at the time told me yes. The director of planning and zoning told me yes, we've known that this property needs to have a zoning change for a long time. So here's something where I'm talking about success. You're talking about seizing an opportunity.
Correct.
Where
how to spot it.
Yeah, and how to spot it. So at the time, multiple people were trying to buy this opportunity, and they pulled out. But there were such strict NDAs everywhere with everybody, and including myself, that I couldn't talk to them. I couldn't talk to members. I was very limited on who I could understand what was going on with this property. But the city director of planning and zoning told me, yes, we're open to changing the zoning. So you think, great, steal, $16 million.
It's still in.
If I can change the zoning here, this thing's going to be worth a fortune. Went through, closed by 2017. Did my whole plan presentation, went to all the members of the club and said, this is what I want to do with your club, this is what I'm going to build you, this is how I'm going to do it and how I'm going to pay for it, because all the members of the club were saying, well, what, are you going to assess us and charge us for this massive yacht club you're going to build? No, I'm going to get a zoning change, and I'm going to build all these townhouses. I'm going to take this $100 million worth of real estate that I'm going to sell and use the profits from that to build us a brand new yacht club and marina. I then get a call from the mayor's office the next day. He wants to see me. I go, oh, okay. Why? The point that I was at was not where I was dealing with mayors. It was more with city stuff. I go see the mayor. The mayor says, this is a week after I closed on the club.
Wow.
So at this point, I owned it, and I have a partner that just trusted on everything that I was saying and the due diligence that I had done. And the mayor said, oh, no, we're not going to give you any zoning changes, no land use changes. You bought a yacht club, you can build a yacht club. Go right ahead, but that's it. I'm like, oh, hold on a second. I came here, I did my research, I looked into it. I was told yes.
I was already after close, too.
I did my research 6 months before closing.
Wow.
Otherwise, I would never have followed through. I would never have bought it if I knew that if I was told I could not get this land use change. So I then realized why these other companies had all pulled out. I said to him, well, I spoke to the woman. I won't mention names now, and then he said, oh, well, she doesn't work for us anymore. We've now subcontracted that position out, and you didn't ask me. Well, why would I ask the mayor? I don't go to the mayor when you go into a city and you want to do something like just some small zoning changes and land use changes. He said, well, we have what's called a strong mayor system in our city, which makes me the city manager. I control the agenda of the city commission, and I'm the mayor. So at this point, you're all in. So you're talking about successes. Just buying this place was not the success. It was actually at that point a massive failure. Because if they're not going to give me this land use change, what did I just buy? Nothing that was worth the money, because it wasn't making money and it needed $50 million spent on it.
Technically a loss in a way.
It would have been, because the amount of money that needed to be spent at that. So, businessmen, you need to pivot. You need to understand your position, where you're at, look at all your options, and just carry on going. And that's what I did. I had learned many years before that in the city of Fort Lauderdale, when the mayor there had denied a project that he shouldn't have. And the head of planning and zoning of the city of Fort Lauderdale, not the head of planning and zoning, the director of planning and zoning, one of the city employees, came to me and said, listen, the Historic Preservation Board, the mayor, they're all wrong. You are right. Don't tell anyone. Now, it's 20 years later, so I'll mention it.
Yeah.
Don't tell anyone, but I'm going to tell you how to beat them. And I followed his steps that he gave me, the guide on how to beat them.
How does that guy found you, or you found him?
Well, he was a director of planning and zoning in the city is the first person you go to and you say, I want to do this project. I'm going to need some zoning changes. I'm going to need approvals, and you need to go through planning and zoning board. At that point, it was historic preservation board, and you need to go through city commission to get big developments.
So it's a whole process.
It's a big process. It's very political, and if the city staff say, hey, we're not going to support this because you don't really meet the codes and the direction the city wants to go, well, then don't even bother going in front of the boards. But the city staff said, oh yeah, no, this is great. You meet all the historic preservation requirements, what they want for this area. Everything is great. Let's go. And then 50 people from the community came in and convinced the mayor and the Historic Preservation Board to decline to deny my project, and they did. Most people would give up at that point, because if you can't get past the Historic Preservation Board and the mayor, you're not getting anywhere. So this director of planning and zoning for the city of Fort Lauderdale showed me how to beat them. You go to the community yourself. You convince neighbors to support you. You take them with you to meet every single commissioner, one meeting at a time, 2-hour meetings at a time with your presentation. So you got to get through 5 or 6 commissioners. Wow. That's many meetings, and do your presentation, convince them to support you, and then, only then, do you present your project to the city. So that's what I did after I'd had one-on-one time with them, because when you present it and you're standing in front of these city boards, you don't get much time, and everyone's coming at you with questions, and then there's audience is allowed to talk, so they get tainted by some of the negative things that the audience has to say, and only the negative people show up to talk. The positive people don't.
They already have their own stuff.
Yes. So I learned. I then ended up winning, and I got all 5 commissioners to vote yes.
Wow.
The mayor voted against it, but they overpowered him. So that taught me, that director of planning and zoning, guiding me through it, taught me how to now deal with the city of Lighthouse Point and beat the mayor who was saying no. And I was luckier because I had bought a yacht club which had, at that point, about 200 memberships, equals close to 1,000 people. And they would come into my restaurant at night and eat. So I could just go and sit down and talk to them and say, listen, this is what I want to do. And I could write, I have a magazine that I publish monthly in the yacht club. I could write in there what I want to do. And for the next 6 months, I convinced all of them that what I want to do for the community is the right thing. And they convinced all the other neighbors. They then helped me convince the commissioners, who then helped me convince the planning and zoning board, the community appearance boards, the marine advisory boards, and at that point I just slowly got voted yes from all of those boards, and then you get to the commission, and I managed to get 4 out of the 5 commissioners to say yes.
What a story.
And it just goes through. So it's persistence. You can't stop because a mayor says to you, oh, no, I'm not doing that, and you're not going to get that. We're not going to allow that in our city.
Because 99% of the people, I'm sure, will be like, all right, if the mayor say I'm out, like, who am I to change something
They'll
here?
be immediately putting their property on the market, trying to sell it, trying to just recoup their losses. No, listen, I'm deep in this. I got no choice. And that's where you often find yourself in business. You make decisions because you don't have a choice, so you have to you have to move forward. But my advice to people is move forward. Don't go back. You're going side to side, but make sure it's forward. Continue going, because you don't know when many things happen through that process, that when you think all is lost, but then you get a phone call from somebody who says, hey, I want to buy one of those townhouses. Can I do that? So then a couple more people, they say that. So you then get those people to come and talk to the city commission with you. Say, yeah, I want to buy one of these. So then they start to see, hey, you know what? Maybe this is something we should consider. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if one day a banker is going to call you and say, hey, I heard about this project you're doing. I want to finance that. You don't know when these phone calls are going to happen. So that's why you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, and know when to run. Because honestly, knowing when to walk away and knowing when to run is just as important as...
Because that can save you a lot of money.
Correct. Knowing when to hold it. And that's persistence.
Wow,
That's what it is.
What a
Persistence.
story, man. To me, what you have just explained, I would say out of 10 people, 9 of them will be out. There's only that one person, just like yourself, that will still be like, you know what? Already, like, just like you mentioned.
I'm going to do it. Well, what that ended up doing was that $16 million piece of land that I bought just appraised last week for $60 million.
Wow.
With no development. That's just with the land use change. And
So what is it? Can you tell us again the numbers? So you bought it. You
bought for 16,
16
and now it appraised for 60.
for 60. So
Yeah.
close to like what, 5x?
Yeah.
Just that, without even the other stuff that
no
you got
construction
involved.
yet, but it's the land use change, the zoning change, the millions of dollars that I've spent on getting it to that point. It's cost millions of dollars to get to that point. I've spent $8 million on it so far. While operating it, it operates as a full yacht club. Does very well. Doesn't make any money yet, but it will. I shut the yacht club down a couple of years ago, so right now we just got a small restaurant out by the pool, but a big thriving marina. But lots of programs. We still have people joining regularly, even though we're about to demolish everything and have shut everything down.
When is it going to be ready with everything that you...
2 years from now.
2 years from now.
Yeah, 2 years.
I want to ask you, so you obviously been going through a lot of challenges in your life, but what would you say is the biggest challenge you faced in and how you were able to overcome it?
So I think everything is a challenge. Every single thing that I deal with every single day is a challenge, and there's no biggest. Like if we want to look at getting these developments approved, they're a big challenge. But every day I'm dealing with, I build 8 to 10 big houses at a time that are almost developments by themselves. I'm building them for homeowners. I'm having to compete against 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 other builders to get these jobs. Our build contracts are between $4 million to $15 million build contract per job. So every one of them is legal contracts, lawyers, owners, reps, architects, designers, owners. So every one of them is it's almost like a battle just to win every single one of those contracts. And I need to sustain the size company that I have, I need to win on average 3 new homes, 3 starts a year to be able to maintain 8 to 10 houses under construction at all times. So that is a challenge
by itself.
The challenge is, I want to focus on the developments that make you big money. They make you wealth, but you need to, while doing that, focus on a business that's making you income. Income and wealth are two different things. But the thing that makes you the income has got its constant challenges that you want to be careful that you got to be able to, you have to make the income to be able to live, and to be able to make the money to buy the properties, to develop, to make you the wealth, okay? And that takes up probably 70% of my time. 30%, the developments only take up 30% of my time because they're actually, for me, very easy, even though there's massive challenges, but I know how to deal with the challenges. So the challenge, if I want to sit and think what's a challenge, it would be the balance of all of that. And then on top of that, you want to balance life and enjoy. Like, you can't be dealing with the stresses that you deal with on this level without having a fun family life and enjoying life. Too many people were just way too focused on always working and never going away and being able to relax. Now,
how do you balance that? Because that's interesting.
Okay, so what I do is I spend a lot of time boating, RVing, off-roading, mountain biking, traveling the world. But I'm always working. So I don't know if with the way I do it, everybody else would. I'm not trying to say this is the advice I give to everybody. I'm never off. I'm never not.
So even if you,
meetings.
like, for example, when you travel and you have a phone call about work, you will take that call and you'll still be on.
Everybody would take phone calls. Phone calls are easy. But what I do is my staff we have weekly meetings on the two different companies that go on for hours where all the staff are in those meetings. I'm still in those meetings whether I'm in another country or whether I'm out on my boat in the Bahamas or whether I'm out in the desert in
That's
Arizona.
so interesting. Because the reason it's so interesting, because I know if you would take 10 business owners, in kind of your size of businesses, could be 5 that would say, yes, I'm on it, but could be 5 that would say, you know what, I'm traveling, I'm out.
Yeah. Well, see,
what is your thoughts on that?
Okay, so some people's belief might be, well, I need to let my mind rest and I need to get away and switch off.
That is correct.
I don't. So that's why I'm saying I'm not necessarily saying that this is the advice I give to everybody else. This is what I do, and it works for me. What I don't want is to go away for a week and come back and deal with a whole lot of problems that I could have just dealt with in seconds if I was accessible to all my staff, all my clients. If I didn't attend these big meetings that I would normally attend if I'm sitting at home. What's really been amazing is, since COVID came around and everybody has gotten onto Zoom, we were pretty good with technology pre-COVID. We've always incorporated it into our businesses. But what COVID did was got people to realize that these face-to-face meetings around a conference room table are not necessary. In fact, it made us all realize that a Zoom or one of the online communication packages, you can collaborate way more with all your staff and your clients and consultants when you're all at your own desk, at your own computer, showing whatever's going on. So that's allowed me to be away, get my family to have their vacation, work. I will put in, while I'm away and traveling, I will put in a good 4 to 8 hour day, no problem, easy.
Wow.
Like going nonstop. I'd have to wake up early, do my work, but by the time we get into late afternoon and into the evening, I can go and do whatever I'm doing. Or I'll wake up in this amazing place on Anchor, watching the sunrise, and then do a whole bunch of work, get on my tender, go to an island, relax with my family, and then wake up the next morning early and do the whole thing again.
Wow.
So you're constantly going, constantly.
And I want the audience to really understand, like, that's what it takes to be $250 million, size in businesses, in developments. Like, it's not easy.
No, it's not easy. No. So then there's a balance to that as well. You want to be careful not to upset your family that they're trying to be with you. But you know what? When you're on vacation, everybody else wants to wake up late and relax anyway. So that's great. Go ahead. Do that. I'm up early. I'll do my work. and then we'll go and do whatever we're going to do.
I want to ask you one of the last questions here. What is your goal? Like, if you achieved a lot of goals in your life, I'm sure, but what is one of your main goals with everything that you have until today?
Okay. When I was younger, my goal would be to retire by the time I'm 55. I'm 49 now. A couple years ago, I probably could have sold my business, my developments, my properties, and retire and never have to work again, and my kids never have to work again. So now my goals shift, because that's not good enough. Retiring is not good enough. So it then shifts to where my goals now you want to create generational wealth for your kids, number one. But I don't want to do it in a way that I'm giving my kids anything. They need to be working for it, working with me, which they're not right now, my two older kids, but eventually I expect them to be, and my younger daughter to be, so that I can share what I've created and then they can take it to another level. That's my goal right now. The other goal I have is I want to empower the people who work for me to have ownership in my business's developments, and then take that business to another level with my kids.
I love it.
I can slowly start stepping back, or just being the figure that helps get the big stuff done, not run the whole day-to-day business anymore. And the only way to do that is to empower the people that work for you, that are dedicated to you, and they need to have skin in the game. And that is my goal. Is to...
I like it. I like it because a lot of people, especially, I have a lot of interviews with successful people, and it seems like, just like you mentioned, just so crazy to me, because a lot of people say that, you know what, it's not even more about the money, it's not even more about the success, it's how their kids or their family can take what they've built over the years to the next level, just like you mentioned. And, just looking at them and understanding their story, I could be like, I agree with them so much, because the last thing you want to do is you've built something for 50, 60 years or whatever, and then that's it.
And then that's it. Yeah. But it's...
and no money can buy it, or,
No. Yeah, that's it. And I'm not there yet, because I'm still in that fight stage. But once this yacht club is completed and built, I would be in a position to have my kids and staff buy or have more ownership, or work to ownership of my construction company, and then they can take that to another level that I can't. Because you know what, when you get older and you get into your 50s and 60s, you don't have as much drive as what you had when you were 20, 30, 40. You do, but you have more knowledge, you have more money behind you, you can do things easier than when you were younger. But now you need the younger generation to take it to another level. They can take what I've built and quadruple what I've done in the next 10 years. And you know what? That'll benefit me, that'll benefit my family, and it'll benefit all of them
as well. Correct.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, what does success means to you?
What success means to me, I don't think I've sat back and thought about it. But what it means to me,
if you were to think like,
I want to be able to have success. To me is once I can get my businesses to a point where they can operate with little input from me. Maybe half my time is really input into helping people who are running my businesses for me, where I can spend time with my family. Family's most important. I want to have a fourth kid now. I'm almost 50, and I want to have another child, and
wow.
And then I can't wait for my older kids to start having grandkids, so I can then spend time with them. I mean, that is everything. If we all talk about the same thing, family, we all say that same thing, It really is, because what else is there?
Wow.
You know, now,
Love it.
I've reached a lot of success with family because my parents moved to Fort Lauderdale. Both my brothers moved to Fort Lauderdale. They both have successful businesses here. All their kids have now living in Fort Lauderdale. Now my kids and some of my brother's kids are going to the same school, or they drive together to go to school. They hang out at our yacht club together. Like, that's success to me. When I watch all the cousins and my kids and their cousins, and me and my brothers just hanging out every weekend, whenever we want, because we're all right there with each other. We've grown to be able to do the same things. We all go boating. We like mountain biking.
Wow.
We're doing the same things together, and our kids are doing the same things. That to me, that's success.
Love
But
it.
for that, you need financial success to be able to do that. So
And
you can't
maintain all of it.
just say that, well, it's all, well, I got to have a great family. Well, you need to balance the two. So that's success for me.
Wow. Terry, thank you so much for coming on. I feel like you had so interesting of a story, and I'm sure the audience can relate. And what is the best way? How they can find you? You have a website, right?
Yep, pattersondevelopment.com.
So guys, make sure you go to Patterson Development, and thank you so much for really, getting inspired me here from Terry's story. And if you like this episode, make sure you like and subscribe, and make sure you follow Tom Grobman also on Instagram and all the platforms. Terry, thanks again,
Only a
and
pleasure.
I'm looking forward to see you guys in the episode.